You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. I want to take some time and talk about the timing of the decision and the buyout. And I hope you'll understand that a lot of times, the way that I can't speak for everyone, I speak for myself. The way I operate is I am not a breaking news guy. Like, rare will be the day that you see me put out a tweet that says in big letters, breaking, and then news. It's just not what I do. I'm not the breaking news guy. There are reporters who that's their job. What I do is I try to vet information as best I can from sources I've cultivated to help craft my opinions on air to be accurate. It's why on Eagle 98.1 Game Day, Saturday morning, I sat here next to Jeremy Hill and told you that I wouldn't be surprised if they made the decision to move on from Ed, but he remained the rest of the season because that's what Scott did with Tyrone Willingham in 2008 at Washington. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it happened as early as tomorrow, which meant Sunday. And that's how it played out because they actually did this and finalized this on Thursday. It was done. Ed coached the game against Florida knowing this was already done. So a lot of times there's things that maybe we know that you're going to start hearing. A lot of media start to disclose some of this stuff. But what we can talk about with respect to timeline is this. Told you all summer, Ed needed 9-3 to feel safe, 8-4 depending how it looked, 7-5 he was going to be fired. When they lost to UCLA, Scott Woodward started making calls to boosters to collect the buyout money. That's when I started talking about this being inevitable. When the AD is making phone calls to boosters to collect the buyout money, it's done. It's just a matter of when the axe is going to drop. I also at that point heard two names. It's when I heard Lane Kiffin and Bill O'Brien first. More have added, and we'll get to that in a bit. But once they lost to Auburn, it was done that this was going to happen. At that point, it was, are you going to pay the buyout? Are you going to fire for cause? When are you going to announce it? Is there going to be an interim? All of that sort of stuff started to be asked. The reason Ed Orgeron is going to continue coaching out the season is because there is no obvious interim coach. Had they gone that route, it would have been Mickey Joseph. They elected not to. No one on staff has been a head coach, has been an interim coach. Back in 2016, it was easy because not only had Ed been a head coach, he had been an interim coach before, and he had done well in that role at USC. So the situations were very different. And as I said, Scott Woodward did this same thing back in 2008. After the 7th game, they made the announcement that Tyrone Willingham would not be back for the following season, but that he would finish coaching that season, which does allow some stability. I think there are a couple of benefits. Some have asked, why would you allow him to coach the remainder of the season? There are some benefits. It removes any ambiguity or secrecy around the search. Now that it's out there, that Ed Orgeron is out, and LSU is going to be hiring a new coach, that allows Scott Woodward full autonomy to go on and conduct a search, to start contacting agents and representatives, to gauge interest, to have these conversations formally, because you know you're hiring a coach. It also allows for transparency with recruits. And this is unenviable. There is going to be collateral damage in recruiting as a result of this news. It happens every time there's a coaching change. It's unavoidable. As a matter of fact, it already started today. You had a 4-star wide receiver, Aaron Anderson, decommit from LSU today. I expect more, and that's okay. It's what's going to happen as a part of this. But I'll paint a hypothetical for you. Let's say LSU and Alabama are recruiting the same player. If there's questions about Ed Orgeron's job security, Nick Saban or his staff member can negative recruit LSU and say, why would you commit there? You don't know if that guy's going to be back next year. Well, now you may not know who it's going to be, but you know it's not going to be him. And that allows LSU to have this transparency with this recruiting class. I'll also say you never make a coaching decision based on one recruit or one recruiting class. Might it hurt you short term? Yes. But you have to keep the long-term picture in mind. The other part of the timing that makes a lot of sense is that Ed Orgeron now knows he's not coaching for his job. He's done. He can coach loose. The players can play loose because they don't have their fire-breathing dragon of a coach throwing chairs against the wall because he's stressed out coaching for his job. It's done. It's over. We know it. And everyone knows it right now. And Ed doesn't have to answer questions every day for the next 6 weeks about his job security. And players don't have to answer questions every day for the next 6 weeks about their coach's job security. It's done. It's over. They all can now just focus on football for the next 6 weeks while we and fans and everybody else talk about replacing Ed Orgeron. So I understand the timing. And in part, I think a lot of this has changed with the early signing period. Because you have that December signing period now, it's not like you can wait because you don't have to worry about recruits until February. 85% of recruits are going to sign in the second week in December. So you have got to have someone in place. As soon as that regular season finale ends against Texas A&M, boom, you got your guy in place. It's done. So you can spend the next 3 to 4 weeks getting everything in place, staff, polishing off that recruiting class for that December signing date. The other big conversation has been around Ed Orgeron's buyout and why LSU agreed to pay the $17 million. I will tell you this, first and foremost. It ain't your money, so why do you care? Boosters pay the buyout, okay? It doesn't come from the state coffers or anything like that. That is privately raised money. And the boosters that pony up for it, they get a nice tax write-off. They get to help their university, whatever. You know that's part of the game. But I will say confidently that the decision to pay Ed Orgeron's full buyout was not unanimous initially. That there were differing opinions on how to go about this. And ultimately, what they got in exchange for $17 million is cooperation. Because I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to know it in your deep down in your heart of hearts to be true. If you were going to mess with Ed Orgeron's money, he was going to fight you. You understand what I mean? And when you're the head coach at LSU, you know where all the bodies are buried. And if LSU had tried to get Ed Orgeron for cause, which, by the way, they absolutely had a case. I've told you, I've read his contract. Like 3/4 of the contract was termination for cause. No doubt they could have got him. Title IX allegations, NCAA allegations, some other things. But if you try to peg Ed Orgeron for cause, what's going to happen? You're going to court, brother. And what happens in court? Depositions, testimony under oath, disclosure, discovery. Do you really want LSU administrators or coaches talking under oath about Title IX, about NCAA investigation? I don't, and neither does Scott Wilbur. Which is why you can say, all right, do we make it out to Ed or Edward? Got it. Here you go. There's your check. Now, you'll coach the rest of the season. You'll play nice. You'll stop throwing chairs against the wall. You'll stop berating everyone in the building. And when the season's over, here go your money. Go on your merry way. We'll see you for the 10-year anniversary in 2029. By the way, there are some interesting clauses in his termination agreement. Like, he has to make at least one appearance a year for like the next 5 years at LSU as agreed upon. It's kind of strange. There's some things in there. But my guess is that's for that reason. Like if they have 2019 celebrations and they want him to attend, like he contractually has to. Anyway. But that's why. That's why they ultimately agreed to pay the buyout. To to have this as clean a break as possible to avoid the messy breakup that would ultimately lead to court. We've seen that with LSU and John Chavis. It was ugly. Might be heading there with LSU and James Craig. You had the money. You paid it. It's a clean break. This gets to be a more publicly civil separation, which is the right thing to do. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.